And I will never forget at 4:07 hearing my little daughter being carried out my front door by this man, who then started walking into an uncivilized and unpopulated area of the neighborhood, only to be recovered by my husband. Lots of people do drugs. They do not kidnap other people's children. Those things cannot be used as correlation or evidence of this wrongdoing. Drugs do not cause people to break into somebody's home and take a child. I really want to put a lot of emphasis on that. There was a man in my home, and he took my 5-year-old daughter.
Can you imagine waking up to that? A 5-year-old girl is safe at home tonight following some terrifying moments.
The girl was taken from her own bed by a man early this morning in Sandy, a situation that has rocked the neighborhood. But we begin with news specialist Jed Bull, live in Sandy with the latest on this case. Jed?
Yeah, Deanie, I just talked with the family spokesman who told me that the Edson family is still on edge tonight. And that's certainly understandable considering the random nature of this crime and also the fact that the father had to save his stepdaughter right in their front yard. Around 4:30 this morning, police say her stepfather, Aaron Edson, had to save her from the clutches of this man, 48-year-old Troy Morley.
I don't think they have any idea who he was.
Police say Morley first caught their attention 3 hours earlier. At 1:30, he went into this Hampton Inn and told the clerk to call 911. They gave Morley the phone.
Stating he was in imminent danger and needed help. However, he then left that area.
So the police had his name and description. 3 hours later, when the stepfather called about the kidnapper, the description matched, and police followed that lead. Less than an hour later, Tina Olson spotted Morley in her basement, and he ran out, and officers caught him.
Oh, this is amazing with a great outcome.
2 DUIs in Morley's record, never accused of a violent crime until today.
I think it's an unusual thing, but not impossible.
Police tell me that they have no idea what Morley's motive was. He now faces a potential kidnapping charge, as well as potential charges of trespassing and resisting arrest.
The man who took a 5-year-old girl from her bed will be going to prison for at least 6 years. A judge today sentenced Troy Morley for the crime. News specialist Sandra Yee is live in West Jordan tonight. Sandra?
Well, Dave, it was an emotional court hearing. Troy Morley cried as he talked about the kidnapping for the very first time. The victim's parents also cried as they talked about how the crime has impacted their family.
Relief that it is over.
Reaction to today's sentencing.
It's been a really long time coming.
That spares this couple's now 6-year-old daughter from testifying against her kidnapper.
It's the hardest thing I've had to go through as a mom.
In court, the Edsons tearfully described the emotional trauma they still suffer today. Their daughter continues to see a counselor.
We don't know exactly all of the long-term effects that this incident will have on our daughter, but we do feel glad to get this part behind us.
In court, they got a tearful apology.
It's very emotional. I'm sorry.
From Troy Morley.
I've waited a whole year to tell the parents that I'm extremely sorry for entering their home.
His attorney told the judge Morley was in a drug-induced psychosis when he took the girl. Morley said he started using methamphetamine after his divorce last year.
Cost me my home, cost me my job. It's cost me everything.
The Edsons say Morley is shifting the blame.
I don't believe that drugs kidnapped our daughter. Mr. Morley kidnapped our daughter.
But they hope his apology is sincere.
We hope that he has instigated a change in his life that will improve his life and the life of the rest of society if he ever comes out again.
We're on the mend. We're on our way. And it's just going to be a long process.
So Morley will go to prison for at least 6 years, and then the judge said it'll be up to the Board of Pardons to determine how much more time he served.
And already up for parole, but it's not the first parole hearing. It's the second hearing that this man has already had. In 2019, he was able to have the first chance at freedom. Now, let's take a step back. In 2014, this complete stranger broke into their house and took their 5-year-old daughter from her bed. I'll get into all of the details of exactly what happened, what he said, how they caught him in the unpacking. But for now, we are going to watch his second parole hearing, which took place 2024. And there's going to be some confrontation between the parole board member and this, in my opinion, this roach. And we're also going to hear from the mother. And with that, let's jump in.
On record. Got it. Just a second. All right. Okay. Good afternoon. This is the time and place set for a rehearing for Mr. Troy Mitchell Morley, offender number 224655. Is that you, sir?
Yes, sir, it is.
Good afternoon, Mr. Morley. My name is Robert Samuels. I'm a hearing officer for the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole. You'll be providing me a testimony today, so I'll need to place you under oath. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to provide will be truthful and accurate?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Morley, did you get at least 7 days prior notice of this hearing? Did you get a blue disclosure packet and have time to go over that information?
Yes.
Was there anything wrong in that, or are we good to move forward?
Well, I did not agree with things, but there was an assessment, and then I was told that the officer who had assessed me wasn't trained, and I got reassessed. So I haven't seen my scores, my risk scores that were in there were up, and I asked them why that would be if I've been doing things. And I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. It just, some of the comments concern me, and that's all. I just don't agree with some of the assessment that he had done.
Are you talking about your LSR and R?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, I know I've been doing good. I'm sorry.
We can talk about that in a minute. Your psychosexual evaluation came back that you were not a risk to sexually reoffend. Your paranoia and delusions need treatment so that you do not escalate in your behaviors. Your prognosis is guarded. So what you did was non-sexual, so we won't treat it as such. Your LSR and R, the only thing I'm showing that you scored very high in was for companions and for family and marital. Everything else was low or medium. What part of that were you not agreeing with?
No, well, and when I talk to these people, I'm talking about, over time too. It's not just now. I'm feeling very comfortable with relationships and people now. I just served as a section leader in Section C down in Gale, and I was in the drug program in BRT as well. So I can deal with relationships and people, but that's what got me here. That's what made me start the meth. I gave up basically on life. I was a highly functioning person, and I just didn't understand. We had a lot of tragic in my family, and then I had a near death of my first wife, and we divorced shortly after that. And then I re-met somebody, and that relationship threw me over the edge.
Okay. I got a few questions for you. First one is, how do you feel about your substance use problems now that you have completed treatment?
Oh, I feel like I have absolutely no issues with the drug. I'm not addicted to it at all. It doesn't drive me. The fact that I want to be in a basis of reality is the most important thing to me. My trust in humanity and my faith in what is, it demands that I stay clear and sober from here on out. And I don't have any delusions, of anybody out to get me or any of that stuff. But that was what was happening to me at the time. I was involved with people that were in the drug community, and there were, I'm sure, officers that were involved in trying to figure out who I was, and those things, they scared me. I thought that at the day that this happened, I thought that I was going to die, and that was because of the psychosis. Kelly, my wife, was in my head. I don't know why I was hearing her voice, but I was, and that's what drove me to that point. I was on a lot of drugs, and I was over 6 days up. So yeah, it was a crazy day. I'd gone into multiple businesses and scared people, and was telling them I needed to call the FBI, and that relates to where I worked, which was at Northrop Grumman as an engineer, and some of the things that were happening there, concerned me, and those issues, they're mute now. They don't matter. but I feel confident with my mental health. I'm not seeing any psychiatrists right now, and I'm not taking any medicine. I really don't want to numb my mind up with them. I'm focusing on my studies. I'm teaching math, physics, and chemistry in the STRIVE programs and some foreign language, and it helps to have a clear mind. I really don't like the idea of psychological drugs. I don't believe I have delusions. My stories are grand. I have, some stories that are quite, but they're real. And if somebody would do the investigation before labeling me as delusional, that would be appreciated.
Do you feel like you were delusional when you were under the influence?
Under the drugs,
Yes.
I had delusional moments, yes, but I had clear moments as well. But the events that were real are fairly credible too, to me, of what transpired. And I understand that the stories, when I start telling people certain things, they check out. I understand why. But it's me trying to deal with the trauma, and that's, mostly what it's about is me just trying to relay to them what I've been through. And it's very difficult when nobody lets you release that trauma, and what I've learned is that I have to take care of myself and handle my own problems and quit trying to share my stories and try to get rid of that on my own. It's even difficult with professionals because it's limited in what you can do here that way. I would like to definitely go see somebody on the outside if I do get paroled to have that help, to be able to release some of the trauma I've been through, a lot of the tragedies that have happened in my life. That would be great. But yeah, I feel like I'm very, very stable.
Are you seeing the therapist while you're incarcerated?
Am I seeing what?
I'm sorry. Have you been able to see a therapist since you've been incarcerated?
Yeah, I've seen them a few times, but the last time I was down there, said, "So why do you come and see me?" And at that point I was like, "Well, I don't know if you don't know. I'm really fine and comfortable." It just became more of I can do that with people around me, just, casual talk. I don't have any effects of long-term stress that way anymore. It's mostly I want to talk to somebody about relationships with people and how I can better those things. And so I'm taking a lot of courses on that. And I plan on actually, everybody says this, I know, but write a book. I really want to help others not go through what I went through. And I've been involved with the Safe Harbor and My Story Matters program. And I'm thinking I can really help them with their efforts as well. And that's my goal and my vision with them, is to move forward helping them, because as I was writing my book, they actually use a lot of the ideas that I was already using, and so we're very similar in goals.
Tell me how you feel about the victim.
I extremely feel sorry for what I've done. I can't take back. I don't know how to apologize. I can't even imagine that happening in my home. I would feel exactly the same way. I took a plea deal to try to take responsibility, but at the same time, I really sometimes wonder if I should have, just because they scared me with the high amounts of years, if I should have gone to trial so that they could see that there was things there that I didn't focus on the family. I'm really concerned that they thought I was focused on them, that I was out to get them. And my father, I guess, went to go see them, and I had no idea that happened. He's my blood father. I haven't even spoken to for 30 years, and he is, so that they know, has passed away. He's no longer an issue. I don't know their names. I don't know where they live. I don't even know the city I was in at the time. And I can't do anything but say I'm extremely sorry. I don't know how to fix it other than I want full closure for them in this life or next, whatever it takes to make it better for them. I wish we could actually be friends, but I know that's asking a lot and it's impossible. I see it from my side as really not a very vicious, evil intention. And from their side, they go to I'm sure they go to the worst case scenario, and I can't help that. I can't fix it. And I am extremely sorry for that.
If paroled, what are your release plans?
I want to better my life even more. I've got plans to join some communities, churches, and this safe harbor to try to better my life. I was an engineer on the street. I'd like to get back into that somehow, but I will take a job on the corner gas station if that's what it takes to survive. I have lots of plans and goals. I have lots of ideas to do. Again, writing the book is really hard to do in here, and I really want to tell my story. I don't want anybody to go through what I went through.
Where will you be living?
Well, if it all comes down to it, I'm sure my father would take me in, but I think for the benefit of all, I would probably work with Safe Harbor and get some housing. I know that they would help me do that. So I don't know if that needs to be in Provo or if that would be in Layton, which is where my father is, but one of those two areas. Either way, I know I can survive. I've got a ton of skills.
Can you tell me what's the biggest thing you want to work on for long-term change?
The biggest thing I want to work on for long-term change is communication. That's what got me here is the fact that I have a certain feeling or an idea, and I don't feel like I'm understanding the other person's point of view, and I try to understand that, and I listen, and I think with my marriage, I learned a lot from it because I just think that I was with the wrong people. And that's the biggest thing is I need to make sure I'm with the right kind of people, with the right types of goals, with the right plans. And that's what I like about some of these people that are in Safe Harbor. They seem to have the same ideas, and it's very rare to find people that are in here working like that. And I prayed for that to happen, and it really did. I'm so glad they came around. I just don't want to feel like I'm always wrong all the time anymore. You know, this was a horrible thing, and I really need to have some growth and closure that I'm not this beast or horrible person. And I'm not sure how that'll happen or if it'll happen. And if it doesn't, then it's going to be, that's my biggest work, is to somehow rebuild my reputation. And I want to, because I'm really not a bad person.
You've been about 100% successful in your programming and classes. That's excellent. You had a couple of write-ups earlier, but nothing recently. Tell me about your mental health.
I think it's fine. Mostly what I'm concerned about right now is acceptance. I really, I want to be careful what I say because I don't want to offend anybody, but I feel like I've suffered a lot. I've lost a lot of things, a lot of people in my life. I've lost everything, and I just don't want to lose any more. There's just not a lot more to take. And I think even though I have lost everything, I'm still strong because I know who I am, even if other people do not know who I am. And I would just like to have that acceptance, I suppose. I would like to think that I'm worth something again. I believe in forgiveness. I ask for it, and I make it as part of the, I've developed this program, which I was telling you about, that I want to write a book on, called Forethought. And there's 4 thoughts with each physical, emotional, mental, social, behavioral, you know, the normal stuff. But they're like buzzwords that let me go through like an airplane checklist of what I want to, do and behave in a certain order so that I can do the right thing at the right time. And forgiveness is the first word I do when I meet somebody, no matter what the bond between me and them are. I need to allow them my ability to forgive them. And I know that's not easy and not possible with everybody for me, but that's something I'm going to live to. And that's what I'm hoping for is redemption. Because without redemption, there is no hope. But yeah, I feel mentally capable. I just need to get that support again, hopefully from community, people support somewhere that I still have worth and value.
Okay.
Otherwise, I did a lot in life. I was doing amazing things. I had a career that was, and I understand the higher, the harder they fall. And I fell, and I really regret that. I let a lot of people down. There are a lot of victims. It's not just the main victim that and their family. I let everybody down in my family.
Why did you choose methamphetamine?
Well, I was told that it makes you not care, and I just didn't want to care anymore. I was seeing the ills and the evils of people, and I just didn't want to feel it anymore. So I did. I watched my life fall apart. I lost everything, and I didn't care. It worked, but it didn't, right? I still cared.
How old were you when you started using?
I was 48. I did 9 months of the drug. I was hitting the hospital every other month trying to figure things out. And the hospitals were horrible. They closed Highland Ridge. I went there twice and there was no help. It just didn't happen. I just couldn't connect. Out of 40 days of hospital stay, I saw a doctor maybe 15 minutes out of all 4 hospitals. I mean, it was just in and out, and here's a drug. And that's why I don't even want the drugs. The drugs are not necessarily what I need. I need to be able to function. And if I'm doing something wrong, I need to learn from others what I'm doing wrong in my relationships and learn and grow from those things and better myself and just keep pushing forward. I want to get back into business and be a contributing member of society. And I would love to go visit my mother's grave and with my father and then help him, into the next life. And I just don't want to lose the last remaining things that are there. I have supposedly 5 grandchildren now, and my kids are angry with me because I left their mother right after her accident. She got hit. She got T-boned 90 miles an hour, and just a lot of tragedy. And that was after we had, 7 to 9. I don't remember how many. There were so many deaths in our family, in our immediate family, that it was just a really bad year. And we just had another. We just had a shooting. So one of my nieces, Stephanie, just shot herself. It's just really. It's been a lot.
Okay. I'm sorry for the death in your family and for the.
No, it's okay, and I'm not trying to make it about me. I know the victim has a lot of feelings, and I'm really, really sorry. I just don't know how to fix it. And I wish I could sit down and have a cup of coffee and get to know them and tell them that I'm really sorry, that please don't have any fear. They probably lived this whole last 10 years in fear because of me, and I can't change that. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're gonna turn the time over to the victim's representative to speak. She'll be just speaking to me and not to you. So you'll be given an opportunity to respond if you want to afterwards. But just be respectful and be quiet. Let her speak. Stephanie, are you ready to make your statement?
Can you hear me okay, Mr. Samuel?
Yeah, I can hear you really well.
Perfect. Great, thank you. I switched from a computer feed to a phone feed and a troubleshoot the audio.
I wanted to let you know that we received all the victims' letters, and I've read them. I've read through them all, and I also attached them to my report.
Thank you. I appreciate that. As you can imagine, and as Mr. Morley alluded to, this has been the hardest thing for my family. Although he comments about drug use and tragedy, what he put a 4-year-old girl through trumps any tragedy that has benefited him as an adult man that he wants to point to. I have a daughter who has never recovered from this incident. So I'm here to speak on her behalf about his potential release. I believe strongly that him being released would jeopardize my family's well-being, but also deprives my daughter of any sort of peace during her adolescent years. The trauma and pain caused by Mr. Morley has had a lasting impact on my life and the lives of my family, but most importantly, my daughter. Despite the time that has passed, the emotional and psychological scars remain. The severity of the offense and the trauma inflicted cannot be overstated. It is crucial that this board fully understands the gravity of Mr. Morley's actions and the profound effect they have had on their victims. We have been through countless resources of therapists and victim advocates. We've moved homes twice to try and cope with this event. However, this is a lifelong process for us to try and cobble back together any sense of safety for my family. I am also concerned about the risk to my family. Mr. Morley speaks very casually about meeting me or my daughter, and that is in no way ever an option. It is not a casual meet that brought us together. It was a very coordinated event that involved him climbing a fence, moving garbage cans, to climb over an 8-foot-tall fence, to break into my back door. There was nothing casual about that night. And I will never forget at 4:07 hearing my little daughter being carried out my front door by this man, who then started walking into an uncivilized and unpopulated area of the neighborhood, only to be recovered by my husband. Lots of people do drugs. They do not kidnap other people's children. Those things cannot be used as correlation or evidence of this wrongdoing. Drugs do not cause people to break into somebody's home and take a child. I really want to put a lot of emphasis on that. The data is not there. The causality does not correlate between these two factors that's trying to be linked together. Mr. Morley speaks about a lot of tragedy, and he has populated this significant tragedy on my entire family. My daughter is now a teenager, and she is still heavily impacted by this event. For her privacy, she does not want me to divulge details, but I must note to the board the profound impact this has had on her development, physically, mentally, socially, every single way, has been profoundly impactful and created a version of my daughter that would never have been had this trauma not happened to her. I urge the parole board to carefully consider these comments and to please prioritize justice and closure for us as victims and the protection for our family. Thank you.
Thank you. I've taken notes, and I'll make sure the board is aware of your feelings on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Morley, we are at the end of this hearing. I will turn this last couple minutes of time over to you to make a response if you like. If not, that's fine. If you have any questions for me or anything, now is the time.
it's just really sad that this has happened. And it's frustrating for me because I feel extremely sorrowful, but the events are not, there was no evil intent. There wasn't. And I understand, so I don't know what else to do but say I'm sorry again, and I'm sorry that it's that way, and I'm concerned. I just don't know how to fix this. There was nothing meant. I doesn't change it. I know it's wrong. I know it was wrong. I didn't know it at the time. I just didn't want to die. I just didn't want to die, and now I do. Now I do, and maybe that would make the victim happy. I really am sorry.
Okay. So what's going to happen next is I'll get my report and recommendation to the board by the end of the day tomorrow. The board's a 5-person panel and it's a majority rule. So when 3 board members in agreement, that will be their decision. The board has been taking between 2 and 3 weeks to get their decisions out, and you'll receive yours by mail, Mr. Morley. Stephanie, if you want to check on the board's website, probably in about 2 weeks, they should have a decision made. You just go to the board's main website and then look on decisions, and then that will take you to where you need to go.
Mr. Samuels?
Yes, sir.
I just want to state, I did not break into that house. I swear to God, I did not break into that house. I was trying to get over a wall of fence to get to safety, and I turned around and the door was open.
You did break into the house. That's the thing, regardless of how you feel about it.
No, they did not find me breaking in. There was no report. I did not
break into the house. How did you get into the house?
The back door was open.
That's breaking in. It's not invited in. That's still burglary, sir.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to help. I'm sorry.
Okay, but it doesn't change.
It was wrong.
I just suffered. It is wrong, and you did break into their house. Right. I'm sorry how you don't agree with that, but that's
I agree with it. I just wish.
Well, then what are we having this conversation for?
I just wish people knew my true intent.
It doesn't matter what your true intent was. It doesn't change the facts, sir.
No, you're right. You're right. And I'll shut up. I'm sorry. I should pay the price.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we're going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you.
Man, I like when this parole interviewer gets angry, and that is the mic drop that we've been waiting for. You know, it's like Utah, you go through so much blandness with the parole interviewers, but every once in a while you can see the human side of them, and there's nothing more good, you know, about that. It's like that's what sticks out so much about the Louisiana hearings. You get you have so much more personality there, but we get to see it sneak through every now and again, and the whole hand tattoo, and he's looking into the camera, and it's just like, but what is he talking about, this guy? I didn't break into the house. What, magically you had a 5-year-old sitting in your hands and you're running down the street? What is he even saying? What? You know, it's like he's this engineer that life is doing great. He has no prior history. Richard has in the notes. It's like it's the strangest kind of cases. What made him do this? He truly believes, and we'll go through some of the information in it. But what are you even saying? Oh, like one day he just wakes up and maybe he wasn't going to do anything nefarious with the 5-year-old. I have no idea, but I don't care. Really, it doesn't make a difference. This guy, like, you know, this is the thing about those who get methed up, right? Like, you see it all the time. You see it where the person goes and he kills 5 people, and then he says, well, I had this voice in my head telling, you know, I was up for 8 days straight, and I this voice in my head said, if I don't kill them, then I'm going to die. And the question that I have for those people, or those people using those excuses, is like, so you would go and kill 5 innocent people if it meant that it would save your life? Like, that's your answer? That I don't care. So then who cares if it had to take a narcotics to make you get to that place? You're still so narcissistic and so selfish that you put your life above everyone else's. And even in this case, he's saying, I thought I had to kidnap the 5-year-old to survive. And then he goes on to say, it's the bastard. He goes on to say, and now I wish I was dead. Maybe the victims would be happy. He's like throwing this tantrum, this big boy tantrum. And while she's talking, he's actually muttering under his breath. He's making facial expressions like, oh, whoa, it's me. I forgot to tell you, I'm 2.5 minutes in. Yes, they granted. Oh, Utah granted. I'm sorry for forgetting to tell you. I know a lot of you don't want to hear me rant. You just want to know the answers. They granted, and it was effective 2/25/2025. So at the time of this recording, he's got another 2 months and 25 days to get out. That's scary. You know, can you imagine he really did nonchalantly say, I wish we could be friends. I wish I could just sit down with a cup of coffee. He also goes on to say, I really want to write a book so I can help people. But writing a book in prison, it's not a great place. And I'm thinking, is there not a better place, like, to write a book, but when you're in prison and you can't do anything else and you really have like no other worldly distractions and you're gonna get your, like, isn't that a really good time to write a book? She's gonna want to read the book. I'm gonna go read the book of the dude who took a 5-year-old out of his bed because he thought he would die if he didn't. Oh my God. And then he goes on to just wrap it all up by saying, yeah, I didn't even break into the house. The door was open. Clown. Wow. Parole, Utah paroled him because surely he's not a danger to society. I don't know. He scares the hell out of me. Man who tried to kidnap girl. I mean, I guess this is like the commercial for don't do narcotics, guys. So 2015. So I guess he spent a total of 9 years locked up. Maybe 10. Salt Lake City, Utah man who said he was all methed up when he tried to snatch a 5-year-old girl from her bed was sentenced Monday to at least 6 years and up to life in prison for kidnapping and attempted thwarted by the girl's father. Troy, 49, was in a narcotics-induced paranoia when he crept into the girl's suburban Salt Lake City home last fall. He thought taking the child would somehow protect him. It's like, again, I'm going on to say this. It's, wouldn't you rather just off yourself than put others through the torment and trauma that you're putting them through? That's what I really will never understand. I think that for someone to do this, yes, you might be all messed up and your brain is all wired and you're not thinking right, but you're still putting your life first. And I think there's a lot of people who don't do that, who don't think that way. And we have a lot of subscribers on the channel that have gone through serious addictions and have gone with a lot of this narcotic experimentation, but they don't do things like this. They'll do a lot of other crazy things, but yeah. Now, I had a good job, I had a good life, and I gave it up, he said in cheerful Morley, a former computer engineer with a daughter of his own. But the girl's parents said that the narcotics alone wasn't at fault, noting many people use narcotics and don't try to take children from their bed. And he didn't try, he did. Mother asked for a long sentence. She said her daughter was so traumatized by what she calls simply the scary thing that the family eventually left their home in search of a new start. The girl loves their new home because it has no screen door, which means she doesn't have to hear the sound it made when Morley carried her out that night. In the months after the kidnapping attempt, the Edsons first replaced the clothing that Morley touched when he entered the girl's room and moved furniture that brought back bad memories. But then they moved. Aaron said he still has to be careful not to scare his stepdaughter when he goes into her new bedroom to wake her up. There's virtually no chance we could have seen our daughter again had I not been at the right place at the right time. And I believe it. I believe it. Police say the couple woke up when Morley tried to walk out the front door with the child in her arms on November 7, 2014. It was a cold night in Utah. They were especially concerned when they heard her voice because their daughter has, oh my God, has cerebral palsy and physical limitations that make it difficult for her to leave her room alone. I did not even put two and two. I did not catch that part. Oh my God. Wow. Aaron followed Morley outside and calmly asked him to give the girl back. Morley handed her over and left, saying he needed to go to church and rambling about the FBI. According to testimony of the detectives Robert Webb earlier this year, Morley was arrested a few blocks away. He lives in northern Utah town Roy, but was in the city of Sandy, a suburb just south of Salt Lake City, because he got tired on the way back from Nevada and stopped at a hotel. But after telling a desk clerk to call 911, he started walking around the neighborhood where the girl lives with her parents. Morley pled guilty to 1 count of kidnapping, and prosecutors dismissed 3 other charges: burglary, criminal trespassing, and interference with an arresting officer. As she handed down the sentence, the judge noted Morley agreed to the plea deal that reduced the minimum possible sentence in the case, partly because he didn't want to have the girl testify. We can scare ourselves about what would have happened or could have happened. Thankfully, we don't have to scare ourselves, the judge said. He will also be added to the sex offender registry. And it's interesting. I'm happy that they did that. And Sir Richard Shirley did share the notes, and he is on the registry. But it was interesting how the prison didn't think that he had to do, I don't know, they viewed it differently. And I don't know. In my opinion, he's still he's a nutty guy. He was talking about how he has all these stories, but no one believes him, and they're true. And it's like, but like who he here he is, still now a completely sober man, sitting there at his parole hearing, and he's muttering under his breath. He seems agitated about what the victims are saying, and he then finally, to put the cherry on top of it all, actually goes on to say that he didn't break in because the door was open. This is a man who is in complete sobriety, and you're going to not consider him a risk to parole him? That, if you needed one excuse, parole board, if you needed one red flag, was that not it at the end, what he said? That's scary stuff. I would be terrified if I was living in the same state with him, because he's intelligent enough to figure out where they live, and that is scary. I would be terrified. And you can only imagine that they are. But what can you do? Obviously, the felons come first, don't they? And with that, I'll let you go.
As you can imagine, and as Mr. Morley alluded to, this has been the hardest thing for my family. Although he comments about drug use and tragedy, what he put a 4-year-old girl through trumps any tragedy that has benefited him as an adult man that he wants to point to. I have a daughter who has never recovered from this incident. So I'm here to speak on her behalf about his potential release. I believe strongly that him being released would jeopardize my family's well-being, but also deprives my daughter of any sort of peace during her adolescent years. The trauma and pain caused by Mr. Morley has had a lasting impact on my life and the lives of my family, but most importantly, my daughter.